Sumi?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me better?
Yes,
Sumi?
I can hear you. Yep.
Hey, Sumi.
Yeah,
Hey,
I can
Sumi.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's a little bit of an echo.
Okay.
Oh, well, I think it's gone now.
Is it?
Yep, it's gone now.
So I'm gonna leave my computer audio. And now you can hear me even better?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. I'm gonna make you a co-host. And I am going to spotlight that. Whew, okay. Let's see what this is talking about on Facebook. All right, I'm creating a live stream. Hey, thanks everybody. Welcome, Adam, Beth, and Kasira. We'll be getting started in just a moment. I'm setting up the live for Facebook. Which is not working the best right now for some reason. I'm not sure why. Yikes. Just give me a minute. Okay, well, I can peace and welcome. Assalamu alaikum is how we greet in the Arabic tongue. Want to thank you all for coming and being a part of this webinar, Navigating Social Services with BossMan Qais. I just want to make an acknowledgement that we were supposed to have a different host for this session, but things came up, and what we do is we improvise, we roll with the punches as they come in, and we just we pivot so that we can stay focused. And for that, I want to thank everybody that is on the call. I'm having a little bit of issues connecting to Facebook Live, but regardless, we're going to be able to get it on there if it doesn't work right now, later today. So I want to kind of start by giving you guys a quick introduction to who I am. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Advocacy and Civic Engagement Chair for the Urban League Twin Cities Young Professionals. Right now, we are the auxiliary of the affiliate, which is Urban League Twin Cities, housed right there on Plymouth and Penn Avenue. Right now, we're looking to build up the capacity and provide career pathways for young people to get into professional careers, regardless of how that may look to them, and to do so through an advocacy and service lens. I'm also the former lab assistant at Juxtaposition Arts, where I worked for 3 years, and I was privileged to work as part of the Tactical Urbanism Lab that engaged the community through hundreds of different tactical ways that continues to influence my leadership development. But I was also a part of the team that created and facilitated the Social Service Runaround, which is a user experience simulation that was funded through a Youth Prize, Youth Participatory Action Research Grant, that is now a mandated training for all City of Minneapolis direct service staff. In 2018, I was a BUILD leader. BUILD stands for Broader Urban Innovative Leadership Development, and graduated through the Emerge Employment and Development Readiness Program. That group specialized its focuses on positive youth development through violent reduction strategies, and we focused on kindergarten through 8th graders and at Hope communities. So I was stationed at Jerry Gamble's, and at that location, we were able to collaborate with Passport to Manhood under Marcus Zachariah, that kind of provided a young men's group, and that provided the young boys a direct mentorship and guidance space, safe space that allowed them to express themselves unfiltered and to bring up conversations that they wanted to have. So I am the owner and founder of the Black Army Brigade, which has put on this webinar series, which is a socioeconomic framework for community development strategies. It's Black-led and youth-oriented. So there's curriculum and program, there's programming that helps to support the pathway trajectory that is going to be in collaboration with the Urban League's Twin Cities Young Professionals. I also serve as a member on Hennepin County's Ride or Die team. That is a cross-agency collaboration to participate in the National Grand Challenge to End Youth Homelessness Initiative. So what that is, it's a partnership between a collective agency between 10 different cities that are represented. And there was hundreds of cities and counties that went for this to be a part of this initiative, and we happen to be selected. So what that does is it draws awareness and it raises awareness of the youth homeless population and the inequities and hardships that youth who are experiencing housing instability, employment instability, experience, while laying out the compounding hardships and the struggles to get recognized for our LGBT brothers and sisters who may not have direct services that are competent for their situations. So what I put together kind of last minute, but I think it's still going to be intentional and impactful, is a presentation to kind of draw out what it is to be able to navigate through social services. And the first part that I highlight is the need to understand what your needs are. Give me a sec, I'm gonna pull it up and I'm gonna present. So, first thing you'll need to do in order to navigate social services is understand what are your needs. In order to understand what they are, you have to have honest conversation with yourself. And that may be identifying what you want to do, when you want to do it, and what you need to do to be able to get what you need. Write it out. So every 3 years in Minnesota, there's a survey of people experiencing homeless done by the Wilder Research Center. You may have heard about this already, but anyways, they have recently put out their report from 2008 survey, and you'll be able to find it in the link. If you are registered, you will get a copy of this presentation and some other documents to kind of help provide exercise. This report finds that statewide in Minnesota, there's a total of 1,659 youth under the ages of 18 who are currently experiencing homelessness at that point in 2018. And on any given night, there's another 3,217 youth and young adults between the ages of 18 and 24, which is a key group that the Black Army Brigade focuses on, who are in this report, who are also. And in this report, they also find that across the board for all people experiencing homelessness, that 37% of people experiencing homelessness identify as Black, which is 6% of the population of Minnesota in general. 12% identify as American Indian, which is 1% of Minnesota's total population, and 22% of youth identified as LGBT. And for more information, you can look at the full report up there. And another interesting stat that I always look at is the number and percent of adults experiencing homelessness that first did as youth, and that percentage is 52%. So that means people who kind of was homeless through their youth stage and adolescent stage and now are homeless adults. So it's kind of like tracking the inefficiency of access to these services that really transform the living experience of the residents of Minnesota. And there was also a local study done by Champion Hall, specifically to Hennepin County, where the Wilder is for the whole state, of Minnesota. But a few years ago, we've attached the summary and the full report for you here. This one found that 27% of Hennepin County's homeless identify as LGBT and 59% identify as Black. These studies are tough to do. So if you are asked to participate in a study and you are a person in need of services, please take that time, because we are often undercounted and underestimated, which can kind of fluctuate the service allocation of funding, and it can misconstrue what the actual needs are of the community. So if you are ever asked, please, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit about my background, just a little bit. So I'm a second generation welfare recipient, meaning my parent was on Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. And there used to be a program in Minneapolis Public Housing Authority that would house the youthful residents of that site. So that'd be me, my brother, my sister, another brother. when they get of age to live independently. There was a program specifically that housed and placed the opportunity in the reach of those who came out of that impoverished state to now move on into transitioning into independence. I'm not sure if that program still exists. But I also understood that I needed some work. I needed income because I couldn't keep asking my parents, who were already having employment instability. My mom is an entrepreneur. My dad was a bricklayer. But, you know, there was moments in between then that we really were short on funds. And at that time, I was wanting all the new Jordans. I was wanting a bunch of stuff, but we could not afford it. So I had to become resourceful in order to find the resources that I need to be able to get what I wanted. So this is an exercise that I did. I wrote out a 3-month, a 6-month, 1 year, and 5-year plans. And I identified what I want, and then I identified some action steps on how to get it. So this is an example. You might want stable housing. What is the first step that you would need to take in order to attain your stability in housing? So that might mean reaching out to a social service agency like YouthLink or like The Link. You might want entrepreneurial opportunity. So that might be something that you bring up to Neon, which is located in North Minneapolis, and it's a business incubator. The most important thing about this step, though, is writing it down, because you can come up with ideas and you can intellectually masturbate all you want, but until you write it down and provide detailed action steps, it will be very hard to attain. And also, a power in writing is that you free up space in your head in order to really focus in on the key parts of that. So when you write it down, you're able to release it and then come back to it and build on top of it, because you don't got to remember, okay, this is A, B, C, D. You already got A, so now you can go straight to B and then build down all the way to Z. Because one thing we must remember, and I'm starting to understand it a bit more, is that it is a marathon and not a race. So you cannot get from A to Z by jumping over all the other 26 letters in between. You must be intentional and you must be strategic. So in this exercise, you identify your wants. Then you identify how to get it. So what's your first step? Maybe, you start at where you start envisioning that you are where you want to be. Then you can look backwards like, okay, so what I did was by year 5, this is what I want to be in year 5. Say, for example, I wanted to be a carpenter, or I wanted to be a homeowner, or I wanted to have a business. This is where I am in year 5. So what did I do in year 4.5? What did I do in year 3 that adds up and puts me in the best position to get to where I need to be in year 5? What did I do in year 2? And then this is where you start breaking them down into the 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 year plans. And I also will provide the link to me really just spending about 40 minutes talking through my entire 5-year plan in retrospect, because my 5-year plan ended at the beginning of this year. So I'm kind of in a limbo at the moment where I'm creating the next 5 years, although I've already identified the macro. Now I'm figuring out, what do I need to do from here until 2025 to get to what my goals are in year 2025. You have to be accountable to yourself, so that'll take some discipline. That'll take framing some of your goals into SMART goals. And if you know what SMART goals is, that means they are. I always misconstrue it, so let me get it right. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and there's an awareness of the time. State what you want to do, use action words, provide a way to evaluate, use metrics or data targets. Within your scope is the achievable. So it is achievable, literally. Possible to accomplish, it's attainable. It's relevant, it makes sense within your plan. It improves the plan in some way, or it provides you to be in a space where opportunity will be in abundance. Time, state when you'll get it done. Be specific on the dates and the timeline so that you may be accountable to yourself about your own success. So I recognize that by going through Step Up for those who don't know is a summer job internship program that places you at a job and provides a little bit of training for about a month, and then you are placed in a job by like June. When I was working there, it was about June 18th through the 20th, and then you'll work there all the way to August 20th. And I've worked at a number of places. I've worked at the Minneapolis. So my very first job was actually was at Minneapolis Public Housing Authority while I was living in Minneapolis Housing Authority's unit. Crazy, right? Then I've had jobs at the U of M in the Multicultural Center for Academic Excellence. I've had jobs with Teamworks doing crew park cleanup. So I recognized quickly that I did not like being behind a desk. So identifying what my wants are, I quickly stopped engaging in that program, although I recognized that I wanted income. So I found a different way. So now we're coming to the kind of end of my high school career. And that is when I was introduced to Summit Academy. Now I've heard of Summit for years and years, and I've seen their commercials online, but I never really engaged with them. But I figured out that I didn't want to be behind a desk. I had tried to go to MCTC for a few months, and it wasn't my environment. It wasn't a good fit for me, and I recognized that. So I left. I was in architecture school, so I left and said that I wanted to figure out how to do the base work of architecture. So I wanted to learn how to build relationships, how to identify the physical texture of these material resources that we were talking about in the architecture course, and how they may be used in real life, in action. I graduated that program in 2016 and hadn't really went back, because then I started working in juxtaposition arts, which then took me to a whole nother realm of being. And that's that was that. Yeah. And now I work with the Urban League Young Professionals. I've worked with a few different organizations in between then. But one thing that I always make sure to do is humble myself. And when I need help, I ask. So there's a old saying like, have faith, but tie your camels too. And I think that is urgently needed right now, because we got a lot of stuff happening in the world. And without strategic concentration, we can lose sight of what is really important at this moment, and what we can do in our own autonomy to assist this marathon for the long haul. So when you need help, try to do as much as you can by yourself, so that when you're asking for help, you're asking for direct actions, and there is no way that that whoever you're asking for can try to give you the runaround, like, oh, well, you might need to go here or you might need to go there, because what you do is you take the due diligence to go there and go here first, and ask some names, because a lot of people will hear you, but they won't listen to you. So when they hear names that they recognize, it becomes a little more visceral. It becomes a little more, maybe not visceral, but it becomes a little more, they become a little more aware that you have been taking actions to help yourself. So being resourceful, up top, there's a link for Out Front, which is a link that kind of gives you direct resource guides for a few different organizations. So listed is a maze that uses child literature to make school safe and fun and welcoming for all children. And you'll be able to get this. There's Annex Clinic for your sexual health, avenues for homeless youth, Cornerstone, Safe Zone, The Link. The Youth Service Network app, I think, is really important for anybody who does have housing instability at this moment, just because it is really dangerous to be outside right now and unsheltered. We have, the weather is really like going how it wants, but also there is ill-intended actors that are really being predators in the street and seeking folks that they can easily off. There are 100 more, and I will be providing links in the looping and follow-up digital care package. And then I want to leave you guys with this before I open up for Q&A. And that is the 10 rules of being human. And this was a list crafted by, her name is slipping me, but it will be tagged in a link as well. And the first rule is, you'll receive a body. You may like it or hate it, but it will be yours for the entire period of this time around. You'll learn lessons. You are enrolled in a full-time informal school called life. Each day in this school, you will receive the opportunity to learn lessons. You may not like the lessons or think them irrelevant or stupid, but there are no mistakes in life. They are only lessons. No losses, only lessons. Growth is a process of trial and error, experimentation. The failed experiments are as much a part of the process as the experiments that ultimately works. A lesson is repeated until it is learned. A lesson will be presented to you in various forms until you learn it. When you have learned it, you can go on to the next lesson. Learning does not end, and there is no part of life that does not contain any lessons. If you are alive, there are lessons to be learned. The sixth rule of being human is, there is no better than here. When there has become a here, you will simply obtain another there that will again look better than here. To say that in a different way, everything is right on time and you are where you're supposed to be. Others are merely mirrors of you. You cannot love or hate something about another person unless it is reflected through you. Rule number 8, what you make of your life is up to you. You have all the tools and resources you need. There's an abundance. What you do with them and in your time is completely up to you. The choice is yours. I recently wrote a status on Facebook that said, the stage is set. Are you going to be a part of history, or are you going to be lost in the story? What that means is, what are you doing right now to challenge white dominant power structures? What are you doing in your own capacity? You know, understanding that it is not everybody's lane to be out on the front line, rebelling in the most upfront way. Some people are needed to be resources. There's food that needs to be cooked. There's funding that needs to be allocated to the right organizations. There's training that needs to be going on right now. And when you are aware of what your position is and where your leadership thrives, lean into it, because it is completely up to you what you make of your life. Rule number 9, your answers lie inside of you. The answers to life's questions are all inside of you. All you need to do is look, listen, and trust. And the 10th rule, you may forget all of this, but you're still human. So be human. And now I'll just open it up a little bit for Q&A. One sec, I'm gonna make sure that I could leave this screen up. As I go back. Wait, why is it not doing that? All right, so are there any questions at the moment? Ooh. Why is this so hard to do? All right. If you do have a question, you can use the thing to raise your hand, or I'm gonna allow a few of you guys to talk and ask specific questions. I'm not sure if this went through to Facebook or not, which is kind of frustrating, but we roll with the punches. So if there is no questions, then at this time, I think that I'm gonna give you guys some free game. So there is a way to be broke. A lot of what will not be said explicitly is that welfare is a tool to build wealth. It can serve as a tool to build wealth. What I have done in my experience for being a welfare recipient is I make the system work in the ways that I need it to work in order to get what I want. I'm a part of a GRH program, which stands for Group Residential Housing. And what they do is they provide funding from the federal level to the county level to cover the cost of living and, well, partly covered the cost of living for individuals who were formerly homeless or experiencing housing instability. There are a bunch of different types of programs, but once you get in those programs, the trick is that you got to learn when your recertification period is, so that you may be able to fluctuate your income so that it is representative of a need for the programming and funding, but then also that allows you the opportunity to gain access into different service agencies and groups that allow you to progress your entrepreneurial or your professional development in a way that you would not have the systems and the safety net that would exist if you were completely independent. So rule number one, find out what your recertification schedule is. And then when you do figure that out, leverage it. Get those jobs in between that allows you a training. I worked for Juxta for 3 years, right? From Juxta, and this is why you also got to build really good relationships with your employers. Now, I'm real big on entrepreneurial confidence and entrepreneurial opportunity. And what I was able to do with Juxta is kind of use it as an incubator to build up this idea about what the Black Army Brigade is. Now, I was housed in the fashion lab, which is their textile cut and sew lab. And through that, I was able to figure out how to frame independent business. So we did that through our branding exercises, identifying what our brand values are, identifying what the brand identity is, all that. Then I was also a part of the tactical urbanism team, which allowed me to engage community in a way that was intentional and thoughtful, and that captured the experiences of the community members for the different projects that were happening. So one project in particular that I worked on was the renovations that were set to happen on the North Regional Library. Another project was I worked with MSP WIN, which is a Minneapolis-St. Paul workforce innovation network, which is basically like all the funders in Minneapolis and St. Paul got together to figure out how can we best serve those who are underserved or underrepresented when it comes to unemployment. And I took the pivotal point to focus in my interviews on those who want to be entrepreneurs and have trouble accessing opportunities because of the way that their ideal is envisioned isn't quite what Neon works with, or isn't quite what that thing works with. So then I leveraged that as a way to sustain my cost of living. So we made a little bit. I got promoted like 3 times. So when I left, I was making about $15 an hour, which was still kind of below the livable wage for Minneapolis, in particular, the area that I live in, where the median income is 100,000 or a couple hundred under 100,000 as our median income. That means like if we were to put everybody in a room that lives in this area, half of them will make over 100,000, and maybe about 30 to 40% will make under 100,000, but maybe above what's considered the poverty line, which is for individuals, single individuals, $33,000. For individuals with families, I believe it's about 44,000. So even on a $40,000 income, it could still be challenging, depending on what your needs are. So using that saying that to say that there's a way to be broke so that you are leveraging the systems that are created to better serve what you need. And when you ask for help, remembering to try all the other ways that you can do it by yourself, so that when you come to ask, you're specific in what your ask is. Because, there's 4 Ds. First, they dismiss you, then they discredit you,
then they try to demonize you to set you up to destroy you. What that means in the social service sense is you make an application for housing assistance or something, right? First, they dismiss you. They say you're unqualified because you make too much, or you don't live here, or you don't have a house, or you don't this or that. You know, there's a bunch of no's. So when you go there, you gotta already recognize kind of some of those no's. So, you know, that might mean going down to the county and getting a denial letter for emergency assistance before you go to a different agency that also helps, just to be able to show that you have done due diligence in getting yourself in a position to be able to ask for this help, this other agency's help. Then they discredit you. So they may say, no, we refuse to give you that because you just are ineligible. Then they demonize you. So they may send it through the grapevine that you're not really needing of services or whatever. And that is when you got to be like really specific and really okay with causing some disruption. Because what we do know from this most recent situation, a lot of people do not recognize the urgency and need until it is disrupting what they are complacent and okay with. And you got to be okay with showing them that you are just as willing to be as boisterous, I would say, on your needs, because they'll first dismiss you, then they'll try to say that you're ineligible, so they discredit you, then they'll demonize you, and then finally they are blackballing you or something. So just to be aware of that, and I'll try to open it up for a couple questions just one more time before I end it out, because like I said, I wasn't necessarily prepared for this, but we roll with the punches and we make it happen. So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself or just raise your hand at this time. Give it about a minute. Oh, and also one thing that I would say is identify your assets, power map. You know, figure out, okay, say you got issues with your property management, figure out who the regional manager is. Who's the manager over them? Say you're having trouble accessing some type of program opportunity. Figure out who's the program manager, directly make contact and ask of them. Figure out who's that manager's manager, and then send an email to them describing what your situation is, and follow up with a phone call if they do not respond adequately. It is very unprofessional for professional social service agencies to not loop back in. And that goes across systems and institutions of housing, social services, career development, training programs. All of them have a duty and obligation to respond to those who are interested in their programs and who are participants of their program. And if they do not, you have an abundance of legal means to put legal pressure on them to be responsive to you. And in order to do that, you got to identify what your wants are and what you need to do to get it. Plan of action, write it out. It could be a 3-month plan. It could be a 6-month plan. It could be a yearly plan. It could be a 5-year plan. So me personally, I got a 20-year plan. And what I do is every year, I figure out what do I need to get done by the end of this year in order to get closer to where I want to be in that 20-year plan. And I section it off as 5-year plans. So my first set of 5 just ended. So now I'm kind of building up what that next set of 5 is going to look like. And you got to be intentional. set SMART goals. Set goals that are specific, set goals that are measurable, set goals that are achievable or attainable, set goals that are relevant, set goals that are time oriented, so that you may be able to use the social services in a way that propels you into a position that benefits your overall success and transform the living experience of those who may be impacted by yours. And with that, since I don't got no questions, I think I'm gonna just go ahead and end it out. So I'll say thank you for all the attendees that came. I'll be sending those who registered a care package that has the PowerPoint and has a couple of the links to some of these resource hubs that have helped me in my development. So with that, peace. Thanks for coming, and have a beautiful weekend.